this episode of AnimeCons TV. I'm Patrick Delahanty.
And I'm Svetlana Shmakova.
And we just got back from SacAnime Summer 2018.
Woo!
It's an anime convention that's been running for well over a decade. A lot of years. And they do it twice a year, once in January and once it's usually Labor Day, but they're moving it. I'll talk about that later. And so we headed up there, and we'll start at the beginning, because our drive up there, we've gone to Sacramento.
It was hell.
We live in North Bay, and we've driven from here to Sacramento. It takes about 90 minutes. Yeah, it took us, what was it?
3.5 hours.
3.5 hours. Is it including the stop or without?
Including the stop.
Okay,
well,
so
the stop was barely half an hour though, so
half
3
an hour,
hours.
45 minutes. So yeah, it was 3 hours-ish, which twice as long as it should have. And as I was driving up, I noticed a lot of Volkswagen buses and off-road vehicles that were headed east on Interstate 80, and I realized, yeah, it's people from San Francisco headed up Saturday morning to go to Burning Man, which is just over in Nevada. That's anyway.
I'll never remember which is the correct way.
So yeah, we had Burning Man traffic, and it was terrible.
It was a parking lot.
We kept getting routed off the highway, around and back on to try to avoid traffic tie-ups.
We got to see some nice countryside.
Yeah.
But that's not how we plan to spend those extra 1.5 hours.
Yeah. So when we finally got there, got our badges, there was...
That was quick.
Well, granted, it was early afternoon by the time we got there because of...
No, but even so, I mean, the line for me, because I didn't have a press badge, it was about 50 people, and it moved along very quickly. They handled everything very efficiently, even though the lady that handled my badge looked very tired, but she was still very personable, and A++ experience of getting badge.
And the badge prices on Friday, it was $30, Saturday $45, Sunday $30, or the whole weekend for $50. So if you're going Saturday and you think you might go back Sunday, just pay the extra $5. And of course they have pre-registration rates that increase as the time goes on. They were pre-registering people for the next con. It was $25 at this con.
Bargain.
So if you like it, you decide I'm going back next time. Let's
go back in time.
It's half of the rate.
Yeah.
So I'm saying like the next time you go, buy that as soon as you can, and you'll save.
I was tempted to pre-register, just because the price was so good, and I enjoyed the convention.
And so the first thing you wanted to do.
Yes, every convention I go to, I make a beeline for the artist alley. That's my thing. I want to see everything there, and I was very, very happy with what I saw in this one. It just, in general, level of scale has been going up all across the board in the artist alleys that I've seen. So many talented artists, a lot of fan art still, and I guess that will continue to be a thing. And
there'll always be fan art.
Yeah.
As long as there's fans.
Oh yeah, no, for sure. And I mean, it is, as an exhibiting artist myself, I understand that's what makes the money and helps, pay for that table and for that expensive trip to the convention. But I look for original stuff, so I was happy to find a whole bunch of just really, really cute stuff. And
so we're going through the artist alley, and she's stopping at literally every table to look at things.
Yeah, because
or almost
so
every
good.
table.
Yeah.
And so I was like, okay, I'm gonna go check out some of the programming. I'll meet you back later. And I come back later, she's only 2 aisles over.
I have to look at everything. But yeah, there was just so much creative stuff. Like people were doing little miniatures, like little mini gardens that were Totoro related, for example. I wish I could have gotten pictures of that. But yeah, like really, really good looking artist alley at SacAnime. I just want to show this. Like, you don't find this in the store. I hope you can sort of see it. It's a
It's like cut out.
shaped card. Yeah,
Yeah.
very cool. And like this is handmade. She made this. And also, I don't usually buy fan art, but Portal is my weak spot, so I got. It's a notebook with it's on both sides.
I didn't even notice the back.
Yeah.
It's just aperture science.
This adorable little, adorable iconography of characters from Portal.
Sort of chibi type.
Yeah, yeah. So I had to get that. I got the last one. One complaint I do have about the artist alley is the aisles were spaced really weird, and we were there with our infant son. So we had a stroller that we were pushing along, and
Baby's first con.
baby's first con. He enjoyed it. He did not squawk. But yeah, the aisles were, and I imagine this would be a problem also for somebody in a wheelchair, someone with limited mobility. So that's something I wish they would fix, because some of the aisles were just too close together, and then others would be fine with lots of space. If they just, met in the middle, then would have a lot of aisles of moderate.
I understand
Possibility.
they have to work with the room, and there's some columns at some points that they have to plan around, but still it seems oddly spaced, as if they didn't measure it out. I don't think the convention staff. I want to say I don't think the convention staff is responsible for the layout. I think it's the convention center or the decorating company. I think it's probably like Freeman. They do every convention center. They're the ones that lay out the convention center and put the tables out, and then the convention staff come in and take over. And so I would recommend that what the convention can do is better communicate, okay, we want aisles that are, this far apart, and here's our actual map.
Well, people do have mobility in those aisles.
Just more evenly spaced.
I also wonder, do you think it might have something to do with where the electrical outlets are? Because some tables require electricity.
Could be, and columns, electrical outlets, but it seems like those would be evenly spaced.
Yeah,
so,
that's true. We don't know.
Yeah.
It was a strange thing.
Yeah.
It was hard to get through with the stroller through the throng of people.
I did notice that the first aisle, as you're going to the room, it was the one on the far right, was one of the narrower ones. And I think I'm like most people, when I go to the room, I'll go start on one end. I don't just go straight ahead. So I think a lot of people are funneling down the outer aisles, and when that's the smaller one, you get a lot of backup in there. And I did notice that last year at Crunchyroll Expo, the first aisle was literally 3 people wide. So, just better spacing. And also, I've reported on SacAnime so many times. Their dealer's room and artist alley is the same setup that they've had for as long as I've been going to it, for 5 years or so. And they have the dealer's room in the front half of the exhibit hall, and the artist alley is in the back. I think that's how they've had it the whole time. But anyway, and so they've got a ton of dealers in the front. It's a huge room, takes up like half the convention center. And you had a favorite dealer.
I had a favorite
It was the
dealer.
first one you saw. It's like, I have to come back here. And
yeah,
it was
they were
also,
right by the door, and they sold all the Japanese snacks that you could possibly wish for. They had the cheesecakes, they had the mochi, they had pocky. I didn't get any poke. You have to respect me for that. And they had royal milk tea. They had ramune. So yeah, I spent some money there.
Yeah, it was the first booth you saw and the last one you visited before we left.
Well, yeah, because I wasn't gonna carry all that around.
Symmetry there.
I knew I was going to get a lot, and I'm not lugging a giant bag of groceries with me around the convention.
Also, you would have just eaten it and had to go back anyway.
I would have eaten it. That's true. Yeah.
Now, upstairs, the first floor of the Sacramento Convention Center is the Artist Alley and Exhibit Hall. They also have a main. They don't call it main events. That's something else. They call it. I'm gonna look this up to get it right. I had it here somewhere.
Well, let me tell you some more about
Yeah.
that vendor with the food. They had everything. And then they had another vendor that also had everything. I spent all my money at the first vendor, so I didn't even walk over to the next table. But
Okay. This is confusing. This is why I had to look it up, because they have special events in Hall C, but then there's main events, which is upstairs in a smaller room. Featured events is also upstairs, and then there's 2 panel rooms. I'm used to conventions where main events is the biggest room, and then you've got maybe a secondary room and then panel rooms. But they've got 1, 2, 3 main event rooms, kind of. And special events is the largest, so it kind of threw me off when I see, oh, it's in main events, and no, that's, I think I got footage of that room. That's actually just a large panel room.
Yeah.
The same size as the featured events, I think, but they're pretty close. And then the panel rooms are smaller. Upstairs they also have tabletop gaming and card gaming. They have over in the Sheraton, they've got, that's where the registration is. They also have a viewing room and karaoke there.
karaoke.
Oh yeah, also at the convention center upstairs, at the top of the escalators, that's where people do the cosplay gatherings. And there's an outdoor patio, which people go out there and large groups form, and they get large group photos taken, or people with elaborate costumes. And they're organized because there's somebody there with a loudspeaker who's counting down. So the photographers know,
Yeah.
the photographers know that they've got 10, 9, 8, and when they get to 1, it's over. The cosplayers disperse, the new group comes in, they announce who the new group is. And that really helps, because I've been on the other end of that, where you have this huge, awesome group, or you have this really elaborate costume, and you're stuck there taking pictures. And the first person who wanted the photos walks away, and the next person comes in, and it just never stops, because
no one's directing the flow.
and new people keep walking by, and they're like, oh, I want a photo too. And I've been stuck in places for like 10, 15 minutes.
I remember
until
DragonCon, you and Ashley.
Oh, yeah, I was the doctor, and she was one of the weeping angels, and man, we could not move because... And finally we walked into the autograph area at DragonCon.
Where it says, no
photos allowed. We still got stopped for photos. I'm like,
yeah.
alright. But, yeah, counting down. And I've actually done that when I'm in a big elaborate costume. We get everybody to just start counting down, and then it's like, all right, if you missed out, sorry, we're gonna move over here. At least move. But yeah, there's a lot of great cosplay there, and
So
that's
much
a good
great
place.
cosplay, yeah.
Good place to show it off. Oh, one of the costumes we saw, we weren't expecting it. We had met up again because you were finishing the artist alley,
Yeah.
and I came back from doing other things.
We turn around, and just around the corner comes floating the Monkey King.
Yeah, on a cloud.
On a cloud that moves. We don't know how he did it. There has to be some heavily motorized platform he was on, but
So
maybe he was using magic.
He's using one of those hoverboard sort of things, and he's tilting, or the other thing
amazing,
is
whatever
he's
it
got
was.
some sort of steering mechanism with a little Bluetooth remote or something in his hand.
Yeah.
There's a couple ways you could do. A bit of a maker project thing, I think.
Yeah.
But I was like, whoa. And so yeah, you just saw the video of that. That was cool. So yeah, what else to say about SacAnime? Oh, there's good food options. They have, other than the vendors that are selling food, there are...
Also a good quickie option if you don't mind spending a lot of money.
Yeah, there's concession stands in the vendor room. There's also restaurants across the street. There's, of course, a Subway that's packed, but there's local places too. And no shortage of places to eat.
No, it's a good area for food. Yeah. Or you could go to that vendor with the Japanese snacks and buy it all.
And as far as attendance, the It was.
It was packed.
Yeah, it was the same weekend as Crunchyroll Expo, and people found out, wait, the Crunchyroll's doing an event on Labor Day weekend. That's SacAnime's weekend. And they're doing it 2 hours from Sacramento. Like, oh, what's going to happen?
Are they going to
people
take a
going to
hit?
people going to go to Crunchyroll Expo? Is SacAnime going to? Nope. The place. I mean, from the footage you've seen, it's obviously really crowded.
Mm-hmm.
So it definitely did not seem to affect SacAnime's attendance at all. People that were going to SacAnime kept going to SacAnime.
Yeah.
And from the people I talked to, it sounded like they were going to set a record. They actually ran out of program guides.
That's right. They ran out of program
They couldn't
guides.
give you one.
No.
And that's
a good sign.
Yeah.
Well
So
done,
it's good.
SacAnime.
But next year, as I alluded to earlier in the episode, they're moving to June, so there won't even be a conflict, which I think is good because their winter one is in January. So do the next one 6 months later instead of 9 months. And that means you've got more space between the summer one and the winter one.
And June is not as hot as August, isn't
Yeah.
it?
Yeah.
For cosplayers.
Yeah. And, it moves it closer to Fanime, but, they're 2 hours apart and it's not the same weekend.
No.
It'll be fine. And, yeah. But I had a good time. How about you?
I had an excellent time.
Now, this is your second SacAnime?
Third.
First time you were a guest?
Third. First time I was a guest. Second time, I think we just went. I dressed up as
I
Chell.
think that was the first time you dressed as Chell.
You really?
I
Did
do.
you?
And the person we talked to was like, oh yeah, you do, you cosplayed. Yeah.
Huh.
He was your
I-
second one. I mean, it happens
The
twice a year.
years,
It's hard
they're
to keep
starting
track
to blur
of.
together, yeah.
I
Okay, well, let's say it's my second one. I really enjoyed it. Yeah.
Yeah.
Artist Alley was spectacular. Dealer's Room was fun and well stocked with food that I like.
Oh, and one thing I mentioned in past reviews, I think it was 2 years ago, I looked at their panel list, and it was something like 75% Ask a Character panels. And I know I complained about that. And then in probably my previous review, I mentioned how it had improved. And it's still getting better because I looked and there was probably just a handful of Ask a Character panels. And there was much more variety. There was Dungeons and Dragons panels, cosplay panels, podcast panels, and this is in addition to all the guest panels. I'm talking about the fan-run panels. And so I think they've got a much wider variety, and I'm really glad to see that. But they only have 2 panel rooms for the fan panels, and I'd love to see more.
Mm-hmm.
So I love going to fan panels. So the guest panels are great, but more variety with some more fan panels. Just another panel room.
I really like their swap meet. I think more cons should do that.
What sort of stuff do they have at the swap meet? Is it like people bring their DVDs? I've been to different swap meets at different cons.
Yeah, it's usually stuff that you might not want anymore.
Okay.
That you might like to trade for something else.
So it's all trade based.
I
know
believe
some
so.
cons-
Yeah.
Some cons prohibit any money from changing hands.
Mhm.
You have to trade. Others, you just lay out a blanket, put your stuff, and it's like a little garage sale. So, but yeah, so that's SacAnime. Their next event is in January. Let me get the exact dates here. It is January 4th through 6th. So
That's
it's
coming
the
up.
first weekend of January 2019. And then they have the next one in the summer is June 7th through 9th. First weekend of June, I think. Yeah, 7th that would be. So yeah, if you want to head out to Sacramento, maybe we'll see you there next time.
Try to beat me to the snack vendor.
Yeah.
Because after I'm there might not be anything left.
Yeah, and if you were at SacAnime, we'd love to hear from you. You can drop us a line, tell us what you thought of the convention. If you disagree with what we thought, let us know, and we'd love to hear your opinion. The voicemail line is 762-ADEQUATE, that's 762-233-7828, or reply to our YouTube video, reply to our Facebook post, or send us an email at podcast@animecons.tv. And next week we will be talking about Crunchyroll Expo, because we went to 2 cons on one weekend. Crazy. Actually,
I wasn't the one driving, so.
yeah, we're just making up for lost time because we haven't gone to a con in Gallifrey was last
Gallifrey was the last one.
We're busy.
We're making up for lost time.
Yeah. So yeah, we'll see you next week with Crunchyroll Expo.